with dramatic events that turned up last night at the game between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. Bangladesh just making sure that they eliminate Sri Lanka from the competition of the ICC Cricket Men's World Cup 2023. This means that there are three teams that are already out of the World Cup, and that is England, as well as Bangladesh and Sri Lanka joining the two teams yesterday. And of course, the fight for the top seven spot is still very much alive for the three teams, and we'll see how it goes from there. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of our watch along right here on World Cup Mania. My name is Naledi Apane, and I am with Tandeka Dube. And as always, we are bringing you all the action of the ICC Cricket Men's World Cup 2023 as they unfold. And of course, we have to talk about what happened yesterday, the dramatic events, the incidences, and of course, everything that has happened in the world of cricket yesterday. A lot of people saying that what happened was against the spirit of cricket. But was it really, when rules were being followed by the umpires and rules were followed to the T? And of course, we'll be joined by David Brooks a bit later on in the show to unpack that into deeper details. Sandy, yesterday, we spoke on the show and we had predicted I think we had said Sri Lanka was going to win that match. And of course, we see what Bangladesh did to them. There was just no way that they were willing to go down all by themselves. They had to take somebody with them. And of course, just crushing Sri Lanka's dreams of, well, very tiny hope of making it to the semi-final. Three teams now already out, and nobody would have expected for England, the defending champions, to be where they are currently at the bottom of the table. And of course, the only thing that is left for them to fight for is the championship trophy draw, which will be taking place in 2025 in Pakistan. But so far, three teams at the bottom out, eliminated. Did you see that one coming?
That one was literally an interesting game because at least we got the chance to go watch it live.
Yeah.
That was awesome. But since that, what happened there, I feel that timeout really created that tension. Already they knew they were under pressure. They were failing to take out like Sri Lanka was failing to take out Bangladesh already. But the moment they had to time out during the innings when Sri Lanka was batting, they to time out Angelo Matthews. That problem, that incident actually caused that friction in the sense that they were depending so much on Angelo Matthews. They know that he would do so much damage for Bangladesh batting side, and they were going to score runs. And obviously, they knew that if he was in there, they're going to win the game. But now that they managed to take him out before he even faced one ball because of that timing out, and it's not like it was illegal. It's the team's right really to call timeout once they've seen 2 minutes has passed.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. We'll go into detail. But so far, three teams are out of the World Cup: Bangladesh, England, and Sri Lanka. Did you see the bottom of the table looking something like that?
Definitely not. I was expecting to see at least Sri Lanka being part of the top seven for the championship trophy.
Yeah.
But what I've seen based on this, they're still on number 8, which is safe, meaning they won't, let's say the top 8 really, they won't have to go through the qualifiers. So they know that they're automatically going straight to the World Cup, meaning they have another chance. So this upcoming game, they need to be careful because once they are now in the 9th or 10th position, that means they need to come again and face the bottom teams in the qualifiers. So as much as Bangladesh managed to win their spot in the top 7, that is good.
Yeah.
I guess.
And of course, today there is that all-important match, a race to the semi-final spot today. Could be Australia just making sure that they cement their spot in that top 4 and make sure that they really just win that match today. However, Afghanistan is not going to make it any easier for them today. And Afghanistan has won the toss. I'm surprised to see them chasing, batting first rather, because in most games that Afghanistan have won, they've won them from chasing. this means that they're good chasers. So it's going to be interesting today to see them trying to set a score and just trying to pace themselves, in that regard. But what do you think is going to happen really when a team that knows their strong side to be the chasing, choosing to bet in such a very big game today?
I feel they knew what's going to happen. It's one of those gambling moments that, okay, we can't all be using our strong sides. They know they are more of the bowlers. Australia, they're known to be the best when it comes to the betting, but they didn't want to give them that opportunity to put up that big score, and they know that they will struggle to catch up with that. So they are willing to try their best to put up the score, which they will try to defend as much as it's going to be just easy. So it's one of those, at least we tried another method. We've been chasing all along and winning. But now let's just try and see how about if we bet first, and are they going to manage to doing the chasing? And so far, all along, they've been betting first for Australia. They chased here and there, but it's one of those, it was a struggle chasing. So it's one of, like SA, that they're good when they're setting, but the chasing is also a problem. So we'll see how it goes, and if the Australians are going to manage, it's going to be an easy game, yes, because it's one of those number 3 versus number 6 type of situation. But it's a matter of, I guess, one of those, if they win, they know we can handle the semis, so which is a good thing. So it's one of those challenging their abilities.
And I believe that Afghanistan is coming into this match to cause an upset, because they also want to, just make sure that they find themselves in the top 4 and eventually compete in the semi-finals of this year's World Cup. However, Australia also, on the other hand, we've mentioned Afghanistan being great chasers. It's going to be interesting to see Australia chasing whatever target that Afghanistan will have, paced for them. Let's come back to yesterday's game before we come back into, the game today. Today we had the privilege of going to watch that match. However, we missed the big action. In that the fact that Angelo Matthews was timed out. So what had happened was there was a player that was dismissed. And the rule says that when a player is dismissed, you as the batsman coming in have got 2 minutes to be in position and try to face your first ball. But Angelo Matthews was said to not have been ready within that 2 minutes that is set. And that's resulting in Bangladesh players officially laying that appeal to say, okay, this batsman was not ready within the set time of, the time given. However, what is also interesting is that I don't think batsmen coming into this World Cup were aware of that rules, because there were so many instances where they were not ready within 2 minutes. So I guess it was very right, and well within their rights as well for Bangladesh to appeal for that. But also there was another story about him not having the right helmet on, and he was trying to talk to the umpires to tell them that my strap is like, I'm trying to fix my strap. But of course that was after the 2 minutes has lapsed. What's just your overall over what happened yesterday, and Angelo Matthews just being the very first batter in the history of international cricket to be timed out?
That's definitely a good, that incident, it happened for a good reason, in the sense that, like what you had mentioned, that these players were getting too relaxed now, in the sense that they were given a second chance. Every time they're late, they're tolerated. And as we saw when we got there, somehow the overs were running behind now because of that time delay. So it shows that people should take time seriously, especially when it comes to cricket, because those overrates, they will definitely cost the team, and you won't want that. And if it means the team's winning by timing out other players, so be it. And that issue also, I noticed, it also created tension, like what I said earlier on, that it wasn't a friendly game anymore. And you were telling me behind the scenes that Sri Lanka refused to give the handshake after the match. That doesn't show some sportsmanship.
At
Even
all.
when there was a silly mistake, when one of the Bangladesh bettors were betting, they did something I don't really remember, and they almost started that fight. That means there was already that tension based on that little thing. So it's it's painful, yes, to be timed out, and you always come up with a silly excuse of why it happened, or you need another second chance. But once the umpire calls that decision, it is what it is, and it's a good thing that he didn't refuse. Otherwise, he was going to be penalized or fined at the same time. That was going to cost him 2 games, and if they were going to make it to the semis, that means he wasn't going to play during the last group stage and also the semis, and that was still going to be a loss for Sri Lanka.
So now we have established like what has happened, right?
Yeah.
And the rules, what they say that you need to be on the field and in position within those 2 minutes or 2 minutes
Definitely.
max. And if you're not in position, the opposition team has the right to appeal to have you timed out.
Yes.
Now, the one of the players for Sri Lanka also said that, well, Angelo Matthews did say to the umpire that he's got the wrong helmet. And that for them to assume that just because you've got the wrong helmet on excuses your behavior of missing the time that was given to you. I mean, the time had already lapsed of 2 minutes. And to just think that you'll be given special treatment and just being allowed to, have your helmet exchanged. And of course, there was a substitute who was bringing on the right one
Yes.
for him, but the time was already lapsed for him. So obviously the rules also state that you need to have the right equipment before you step into that field.
Definitely.
So now for batsmen going forward, they will be mindful of the time they get to the field. And I'm not sure if the stadium does have like a very big screen that shows time whenever a batsman is dismissed. But I think if there isn't, after what happened yesterday, they should definitely implement that from today, actually, to make sure that nothing of that sort happens again.
Yeah, in the same sense that they might have that time up. They all know, like before the whole tournament starts, they're all given the playing conditions, right? It sets out all the rules which are going to be used right there, and they know that the moment someone is taken out, like when there's the wicket, right, the next batsman needs to be ready. The moment they cross that boundary, they should, like, somehow they need to meet by the 30-meter yard, like their borders around. Then the moment the other one is going out, the other one should be already in. Then they cross in, right? Because it's not allowed somehow to be like one better inside there. So at least if one is there, at least if the one who was coming out waited a little bit to see if Angelo Matthews was still ready, because the timer starts the moment he jumps over the boundary. But the fact that he didn't see him, that means you are somewhere doing something else, not being ready. So the moment he jumped out of those boundaries, that means that's when the timer started. He was not yet ready. And the moment he walks in, it's almost close to 2 minutes. And that's when he realizes that the helmet is wrong. That's totally some silly excuse. And at least he could have played during the end of over. He could have changed that helmet.
Yeah,
so it's
but
not
are
like,
you allowed though to like play with one of your equipment not being in the right condition? For example, in that example would have been the strap coming out.
At least you know that the moment the over is finished, right? You've got those few seconds.
To
that
exchange.
Means, yes, to exchange. You're just there. You manage to bet your 6 balls. Then you can change during that over. Because the change of bowler session, right? That's when the substitute can come in, give you the right helmet, then go back. Even for the bets as well, if you realize it's broken, you have no time to go back and come back because time is running out. But if you can do it during drinks break or end of over, then you're safe, and that's, you can go with that one.
And I think it's going to be interesting, just going forward. No batsman will want to be caught in a similar situation. And now I believe that they will also be using the same watches or clocks as the umpires to know how much time they have to get, whenever somebody goes out, is dismissed, and then they will also try to make their way into the field. Now, the reason why I'm saying that, it's because I think we've seen instances in this very same tournament of the Cricket World Cup 2023, we've seen instances where batsmen really did not stick to the 2-minute rule. That's why I'm saying Bangladesh seems like they read the rules really well and understood that you need to be ready by a certain time, and if you're not, we have the right to appeal to have you timed out.
Yeah, but also remember there are also managers and captains. That's their job to make sure that their players are always ready. So if it means them making two, three, four people ready, so that when the other one faces one boy and comes out, there's no time to be changing. We just know, okay, your batsmen, all of them, they are ready.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, we can't really blame Angelo Mathews by himself, but the manager should make sure that everything's okay. Let's just say all the technical teams, because it's a teamwork. So really, it's one of those, he can't really rely on himself. He's just a player. He is stressed about the game. Yeah. But at least the manager or the captain should be like, okay, are you ready of what's going to happen right now? Or if he was far away, at least they supposed to make sure that he was ready at least 10 minutes before, as much as it was going to be the first ball, taking the person out. So it's one of those, they were just too relaxed and not aware of what was going to happen.
Yeah, and David Brooks will be joining us in a few minutes to just further break that down for us. But what happened yesterday? Do you think the teams that are remaining in the World Cup also said, "Hey, guys, you see what has happened? Let's make sure that we stick to the 2 minutes time because as it will lapse, the opposition team saw what Bangladesh did yesterday. They will also want to follow suit and make sure that, you know, I mean, if the other person is 1 wicket, the other team is 1 wicket down. Who wouldn't love that? So of course, teams have also seen what happened yesterday. What do you think the chats were, after yesterday's match for all the teams?
I'm sure they took that as an eye opener. They're like, okay, see, you guys are always delaying. You see, when one team is already ready and they just want to win, like right now, it's just survival of the fitness.
Yeah.
If anyone can win somehow, anyhow, if as long as it's along the rule books and they're taking advantage of that, sure, they would want to win. If it means them taking out all the top order batsmen, then
they will do that.
They will do that, and it won't be wrong. And also, it will be according to the umpire. The fact that he agreed to that appeal, that means it was right. So definitely, it's an eye opener for everyone. And they're just going to be like what you're saying, that they're just going to use that as a way of adding more wickets to their sides now.
Yeah, and of course that match between Afghanistan and Australia have just kicked off, and we'll be providing you with all the details and all the match updates as it happens. In just 2 minutes, we'll be talking to David Brooks, but let's talk about today's match. Australia coming from 5 back-to-back wins. Afghanistan, on the other hand, just 3 wins in the last 5 and losing 2 of those stats. We would say that today might go in Australia's way.
Yeah, definitely. Because so far the head-to-head stats, Australia versus Afghanistan. Australia in both sides, the ODI matches and also World Cups, has been winning all the matches. So far they've played 2 games against each other. Australia has won all the games, and Afghanistan lost all of them. In ODI matches, they've only played 3 games and they lost. So, and also I had an incident, that's when Australia refused to tour Afghanistan at some point. I feel this game is going to be like, okay, so you refuse to.
Let's see why.
What's going on right there. So, and also I hope they don't have underestimating mentality. If they know what's coming, and Afghanistan has been really doing well so far, you didn't expect so much wins from them, because you think that it's a small team, right, with less experience compared to all other teams. But they've been doing really well and breaking some records of their own, and better on that scoreboard. So it's one of those. It's just going to be that like, okay, yeah, we need to pull up our socks.
Yeah. And of course, Afghanistan, if they do win this one, they are looking for their their maiden semi-final spot. So if they make it to the semi-finals, this will be the first time in Afghanistan cricket, in the World Cup to make it past the league stage and into the semi-final. So they will be coming into this match guns blazing. They chose to bet first. And just looking at the Wankhede Stadium where they'll be playing at, their records so far of this ICC Cricket Men's World Cup 2023, 26 total matches played, 14 of those were won by that batted first, and 12 of those by the team that batted second. And of course, 260 is the average first inning score. The highest total of that one still remains at 438, set by South Africa in the very first match of the season of the tournament against Sri Lanka, and the lowest seems to be that match again between India and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka finding themselves suffering again at the very same stadium, and that one with the lowest of 55. So coming to this match, we see that this is a high scoring pitch, and the highest speed of 438 in the first in the first match of this World Cup. Coming into today's game, the stats also do say that the team that decides to bet first might stands about 78% chance to win the match today, in that being Afghanistan. So I guess they know that they are able to chase, but seeing the stats as they are, that the team that bets first is favorable to win that match. Do you think they had the stats in mind when they decided to bet first, when they know that they're great at chasing?
They saying based on the states, that means they did the choose right. But at the same time, they studied the pitch conditioning for that during the day. Like right now, it's favorable for the betting side because that means the ball will be just flying. That's why they have the highest number of runs.
Yeah.
But when it's now in the evening, that's when the Jew now starts doing things on the pitch, and the ball somehow it won't be moving as fast. So meaning they knew that with the little army force they have right now, they will need to bet first, and that's when they'll manage to put on those runs on the scoreboard. And when it's now in the evening, they've got the spinners, like what we always say that they have more spinners, and that's when they're going to be doing their magic in the evening when the ground is now with the Jew and the ball is now being bowed back. The pace is now a little bit slower, so it's easier to manipulate the ball in the evening compared to right now. So right now it's still fresh and dry. The ball will be just coming straight to them.
And for Australia, though, whatever target will be, set by Afghanistan, we will see them betting second. Do you think they stand any chance, especially considering how the pitch will be at night? You just spoke about the Jew that may be, able to destabilize the team that will be betting second.
Definitely, they're going to manage to catch that score in the sense that if all their top batsmen they're informed and they're concentrating on what's going to happen and what this game is all about to them, that if they lose, they know they've got so much to lose in this game. And compared to Afghanistan, they just want to and grow their way up. But Australia, they're just trying to maintain that position to be in the top four. So they will just have to do their best and they will maximize because they know they've got the likes of David Warner, who's known for his masterclass betting. They've got Mitch, Michael Marshall, who's known. So it's like they've got world class key players really who can always save them.
And you're speaking about David Werner, who's just 45 runs away from that big 18,000 runs in international cricket. He'll be also looking to score that. We've seen a Virat Kohli who was not been able to finally convert that 49th ODI. So teams also, I believe, do homeworks on the individual players, the key players for each team, to make sure that they don't secure the milestones against them. Coming to this match, David Werner just looking for 45 runs in today's match. What can we expect from key players like that who are also just looking to, achieve their personal milestones?
Definitely, it's going to be interesting in the sense that they know, okay, we might struggle as a team, but at least for myself, let me just make sure I maximize. For example, Afghanistan as well, they know, okay, we're facing Australia, we're going to lose, but we'll try to fight harder. And for example, they've got Mohammed Nabi. He just needs 2 sixes to reach 100 sixes in ODI. So they're saying, okay, I might come out soon, but at least let me just reach my target. So it's one of those, at first, work on your personal goals, then make sure at the same time if there are an advantage to the team, so be it. So it's one of those, everyone, they have their own personal milestones which they need to achieve today, and that's what they're going to do.
More milestones. We're just going to be going through that in a moment, and also just conclude that conversation we had a bit earlier on about Angela Matthews, regarding the incident that happened yesterday. But coming into this match, we've already established that both teams are fighting for the semi-final spot, especially for Australia. They will want to win this match because it will cement them into that the semi-final spot. For Afghanistan, their very first ever one in this tournament, in their history in World Cup, in ODI World Cup. So coming to this one, who do you think is going to come victorious out of this one?
Out of this team, out of the
today's match,
yeah, definitely we're going to see how David Warner is going to perform. We've got the likes of let me quickly check the stats. We've got Aaron Finch. I'm not so sure if he's in the squad today. He needs only 105 runs. That's a century, really, to reach 1,000 runs in ODI. They've got Malcolm Stark. He needs 30 wickets, which might be a little bit hard, but he knows that, okay, I can always start today, get myself those wickets, and I'm working my way up. So there are a lot of people who've got really those milestones they need to check. There's a whole list. We'll spend the whole day trying to explain it, but it's going to be quite an interesting day, really.
But yeah, after 38 matches of 45, let's just quickly go through the top five of the leading bowlers. And of course, top of the table is Matushanka of Sri Lanka in 8 innings. He has 21 wickets. Although Sri Lanka may be out of the tournament, but it goes to show that there's players who know how to, bowl and of course just take out as many wickets as they can. At number 2, you've got an Australian in Adam Zampa, also with a total of 19 and 7 innings. And at third place, South African Marco Janssen in 8 innings, a total of 17 wickets. And at number 4, you've got Mohamed Shami, who we can speak about all day because he's been brilliant considering the fact that he did not start the World Cup with the team. However, he managed to get, in 4 innings, 16 wickets. And of course, he would just be so proud of himself in that one. And of course, last on the list, we've got Shaheen Afridi from Pakistan in 8 innings, a total of 16. So this shows how competitive the tournament has been. You're looking at the first on the list in Matushanka, a Sri Lankan player whom really just knows how to take the wicket. But his team was dismissed and they've been eliminated. So this speaks about the competitiveness of the competition. And of course, just because you know how to take the wickets, clearly in this case, doesn't mean that your team will win all the way through the semis.
Yeah, because you realize that as much as you try to do it, it's a team sport really at the end of the day. As much as you perform well as an individual, but as a team, if you fail to move together to that one goal, you're going to lose either way. So now we just have to celebrate your individual efforts. And it's a good thing for Matushanka in the sense that now he's well recognized for his efforts, that in the sense that when they face Sri Lanka, they know who to look out for. So he has created that name for himself, that brand that I'm here and I'm good at this. So moving forward, you never know, he might be part of the IPL or any other competitions, knowing that he has the states in the pocket. So that's what everyone has to do. For example, in this game as well, it might be a hard win for Afghanistan, but at least
that would be a proper upset.
Exactly. Or never know, they might turn around the game and win against Australia, and that will be their first win ever. So there's a lot on the table.
Yeah, that'll be their first semi-final spot in international cricket. Also, we have to look at leading batters after match day number 38 of 45. And first on that table is Quinton de Kock, South African, after 8 innings with 550 runs so far. And of course, second, it is Virat Kohli. He has to be on the list, right? He's an Indian batter in 8 innings, a total of 5-4-3. That shows how close number 1 and number 2 are, and it'll be very interesting to see if both teams do go through from the semis to the final. I think it will be interesting to see who then will be the leading, run the leading scorer with the most runs after that. And of course, third on the table is Ravidra from New Zealand after 8 innings, 523 runs. Not too bad as well. So the first top three, it's in the 500s. It's in the 500s. And these are the teams so far in the top four. And of course, number four, Indian as well, Rohit Sharma, the captain of India. 8 innings later, 442 runs. Also not too bad. And number five on that is David Warner, who's just looking for 45 runs to complete 80,000 runs in ODI cricket today. What do you make of this top five? I think it's very, I feel like they're very close margins, very close by, and whoever that will walk away as the leading scorer for this tournament absolutely deserves it.
They are very close. Somehow, what I'm looking at is from the like which team they play for, like the countries. It's literally somehow the top five, the already in the top five squad.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. The more games they play, definitely it's going to be a tough one to see who ends up at the top. And they know that once we play here, we're now playing for that top batters of the competition, something like that title. And they need to put in those runs, and they know they've got some serious work to put in here because people are just coming in so fast. And like what you're saying, the margins here, they're just so small, yet just so far at the same time. Because if you're coming out with 5 runs, that's not good enough for you. And they also show that they are world class players. So if they're able to score so much runs in a World Cup where there's so much intensity, that means they can face any kind of challenges right now.
That is so true. You mentioned something about the IPL, and it got me thinking. You know, a lot of players obviously want to shine on such a very big stage as the World Cup. And of course, if you do shine and you get to play in the IPL, that is the best league, the best cricket league in the world. So a lot of players will not only be just playing for their team, but personal to, play in the IPL. What do you think about that? Of course, and players just wanting to shine and to make it to the IPL.
I'm sure they'll just take it as a scout talent because for IPL, it's not just anyone who plays for that league, really. As much as it's an Indian Premier League, they'll just want the top players from each country. And
Yeah,
like what you're saying, they just want to shine so that they're able to be part of the squad. And a good achievement in the sense that might not really play long in the national league for your country, but you're being called during off season to play for this league.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so we'll be talking to David Brooks, just talking about that incident that happened yesterday between Bangladesh as well as, well, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. Bangladesh just knocking Sri Lanka out of the competition. And of course, David will be giving us all his thoughts on the match that was yesterday. And of course, we had the privilege to watch it today. David, thank you so much. Okay, seems like he still has problems joining in.
Oh,
But
can you hear me now?
we're good, thank you. Can you hear us clearly?
I can hear you absolutely loud and clear. I can hear you both, and I can see you both looking live and clear as well.
Thank you so much, David. What a dramatic way to kick Sri Lanka out of the tournament last night. Bangladesh just making sure that they read the rules and follow the rules as they appealed for David, for Angelo Matthews to be timed out of that match yesterday. And surely players were also watching, different teams were also watching yesterday to say, hey, this is the rule. And if you do not stick to the 2 minutes of getting into position and ready to face your first ball, you stand a very high chance of being timed out. What do you make of that match yesterday and how everything has transpired?
Absolutely right, the lady. If you're waiting to go into bat, you've got to be ready to go in, and that means checking your equipment, including your helmet strap. If you dawdle and take 1 minute 55 to get into
Yeah.
position to face your first ball, you better make sure that you're ready to face that first ball. If you lumber out to the middle and put your helmet on at the last moment and then find that the strap is broken, you've got to take strike anyway. You can't then signal to the 12th man to bring you out. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Angelo Matthews, and I think his experience, is a really important part, of this Afghan side, of this Sri Lanka side, and he should have been in the team from the start. But really, a man of his experience should know that you have to be ready to face. And Shakib, I don't think any blame can be attached to him. He inquired of the umpire, saying this guy's taking too long. He should be timed out. Correct. He's later, Shakib's had to justify his decision by saying, it's war. Yes, it's intense warfare in a World Cup, warfare on the pitch. And you take, so it's in the rules. Every club player, every recreational player knows that you have to be ready to go in. I often have to say to our younger players in the club that I still play for, guys, put your pads on, put your whites on. You've got to go into bat. And some people can take too long, and there is a dismissal. It's called timed out, and the rules were correctly applied. And that's why they have a dugout in the T20 matches, to speed up the process of the next man or woman getting into bat. And Angelo Matthews disregarded that. As for his petulance afterwards, throwing the helmet down, throwing the gloves down, now that not only that is a poor example to younger players watching, but it's also against the rules as well. He should incur some punishment for that. And also his comments in the press conference that this was a disgrace. No, the disgrace was that you weren't ready to go into bat, even though you've got that experience. There can't be special rules for our senior players, can there? Although at least he took part in the game. I mean, I was going to say,
what you're saying. I love what you're saying, and saying that there is no special treatment for any players. But David, I have to ask you this. I feel like in this very same World Cup, there might be batsmen who may have taken over a little over 2 minutes, because I don't think there's any, screens with times to time you as to when you have to come into the field and get in position and ready to face your first ball. I believe that we might have seen a bit of few batsmen who were not ready within that 2 minutes, but because the opposition team did not, were not even aware of the rule that they had to appeal. But for Bangladesh to appeal that, they were very well within their rights. And of course, I've seen a lot of people saying that that is a disgrace to the sport. But rules are rules, and they have to be followed at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I mean, most of the people are complaining because it's never happened before in an international match. So there's the shock of the new. But I agree, it could happen in the future, now that this rule has been placed more center stage. I'd like to see a countdown clock. They have countdown clocks for everything else, strategic timeouts, this, that. Put a timeout clock, and that would heighten the anticipation of the new batter coming in. You've got 2 minutes to get out there, and I think that would be a useful addition. All I'd say in conclusion on that game is at least Angelo Matthews turned up to play in the match. Unlike Steve Smith today, in today's game, again, between Australia and Afghanistan, where he hasn't turned up. He's complaining of vertigo, and so he's not in the team today. Vertigo, looking down from the dressing room onto the field? Last time I looked, the ground was flat.
And of course, you had to come back to the match that will be taking place today. It is a fight for the top 4 spot. Number 3 and 4 are still up for grabs for whoever that wants them the most. Coming into today's match, you're looking at an Afghanistan that also want to have, their maiden semi-final, berth. And of course, they'll be going up against a team that is coming from 5 winning streaks coming into this match today. What do you think is going to happen in today's match?
Well, first of all, we have to give thanks to Australia for agreeing to play this match, even though Steve Smith's not playing. Because if you remember last year, they refused to tour Afghanistan on the moral ground that Australia does not have a women's team. Now, I'm going to put this to you both, and Tasnin in particular, that Afghanistan has never had a women's team because it's a country with the Taliban in power, which is denying basic human rights to women. The rights to an education has been challenged. So does Australia really think that taking a moral position is going to influence the Taliban in that particular country? It's obviously nonsense. It was an excuse not to have to tour an unfamiliar country. And I'm really fed up with Australia taking that position. It's their duty as one of the big three to play these countries and to visit them. You know, that's part of the challenge of international cricket. If you play every game at home, be like India in this World Cup, because home teams do have an advantage. You know, India on course to win this World Cup because it's at home. But Australia's refusal to play away, if they were that keen on that moral position, they should have stuck to it today. And Sunil made the point earlier on NewsX that he should, Australia should really have stood down today and given the 2 points to Afghanistan. Maybe Steve Smith is taking a moral position today with his vertigo. But now that Australia are playing the match, they're heavy favourites with, you know, the bookmakers in the UK. Ridiculously short price, as if anyone can't see any other result than an Australia win. But the fact that Afghanistan, who I'm also backing at 66 to 1, that's £66 for every English pound that I put on. Apologies to our Indian viewers who are unable to bet on live. That, although they do seem to find a way. Those odds are not good. Afghanistan 4 to 1. That's good odds. They're the outsiders today. They've won the toss. They're batting first. Their 4 spinners will come into their own, particularly as one of the best players of spin in the world. Steve Smith has chosen not to accept the challenge today.
Yeah, and of course, Afghanistan also, like you're saying, they have so much to play for. And of course, you just mentioned the stats right now that Australia won all the matches that they've played against Afghanistan. They will be looking to complete, you know, that total and complete dominance over Afghanistan in today's match. You also have players who are looking to complete personal milestone, the likes of David Warner, who's just 45 runs away from 18,000 ODI runs in cricket. Who are some of the players that you think we should be looking out for in today's encounter between the two teams?
Well, yeah, Dave Warner's had a fantastic World Cup. And yeah, he's definitely would be my pick to be Australia's top bat today. Because, of course, Glenn Maxwell is still recovering from falling off a golf cart. And I never buy anything that's fallen off the back of a lorry, because it might be stolen goods. He's fallen off the back of a golf van, and so I wouldn't want to be getting involved with Glenn Maxwell today. So I think that Steve Smith. I mean, it's really the Australian bowlers, I guess, who are going to have a chance to impose themselves on Afghanistan. Now, Adam Zampa has been taking wickets for fun, but with Afghans, you think with their knowledge of spin, the fact that they're facing 4 bowlers every time they have a net session, maybe they can counter the threat of Adam Zampa. So can they keep out the Australian paces in the first 10 overs? Can they prevent the likes of Hazelwood and Cummins and, Stark in the early overs? If they can counter that and get off to a good start today, and maybe Tassin, you can tell us what sort of start have they made today?
Yeah, I'll just give you a score update in a moment. But David,
sorry, Thandika. So I should have put that question to Thandika.
They're currently on 27 runs in 5.2 overs.
Okay, so they've already started at 5 and over, and no wickets to fall yet?
No. Yeah,
so they've got off to a good start. And if they can post, I mean, this stadium has, where they're playing this match, has got a record of high-scoring first innings, as you've said. And you have to say that, if Afghanistan can post, this is at the Wankhede Stadium, isn't it? If they can post a score of 320 plus, if they can get to 350, I think that Afghanistan become favourites to win. And I'd love to see them win today. And it's that batting order that Jonathan Trott has done so much to improve. The English coach, or rather, he's actually South African, but English people.
And let's talk about this. Just before I hand it over to Tandi, before we wrap it up, you're looking at a team like Afghanistan who really have won most of their match from chasing. They're deciding to bat first in today's match. Do you think that was a very wise move from them? And of course, we have to consider the pitch conditions, like you're saying. The team that bats first at the stadium really stands a higher chance of winning the match.
You see, they're being very well coached. They would have put some thought into that decision, and they'll have their reasons for doing it. And I think putting the runs on the board today is a really good idea, given this ground and the history. And when you look at those historical stats that you put on the screen, which said, yes, Australia have beaten Afghanistan every time they play, but that was before this new strength, the new improved Afghanistan team that we're seeing under this very skillful coach of Jonathan Trott. I was going to claim him as English because he did play for England, but as we all know, he's actually a South African by birth, so I can't really claim him at all. But I think he's done so much to improve the Afghans. He's put some calmness into their batting. You don't have to hit every ball. You can build an innings, and that Afghan top order has really responded to that. It's an improved team. They're the most improved team in this tournament, and I think with the momentum behind them, they could spring a surprise today.
Yeah. I think there's going to be upset costs today, especially, considering that both teams want the top 4 spot just as much. But of course, it'll mean much more to Afghanistan. This will be their very first one in international cricket. Just wrapping things up. Yeah.
It would be huge for Afghanistan. I mean, for a country that's only recently started playing cricket. And the only reason they started playing cricket was because most of them were refugees in Pakistan and learned to play the game with a tape ball, a soft ball with tape on it in Pakistan in refugee camps. So you've got a country that has young people who've taken up the game. Older people don't even know it. They don't recognize it. So it's only the young people that were involved learning it. I play cricket in this country still, and my club has a lot of players from Afghanistan. We have a big Afghan community in Brighton, in Sussex, on the south coast. And when these guys discover what it's like to play with a hard ball, that actually the hard ball goes a lot further when you hit it than a tennis ball or a tape ball. And when they discover that, and that keeping the ball on the ground and all that, their enthusiasm for the game and what they've brought to the game. And it should be encouraging for every associate nation that doesn't have international full status of what, Afghanistan has achieved is just remarkable. Already they are winners in this World Cup, even if they don't progress any further, because they've had notable scalps, including England. Well, you might say anyone can beat England in this tournament. Don't forget, Afghanistan beat England. They've got some scalps under their belt. They beat Pakistan, I believe. I think I've got that right. And one other, 2 others. So they've already achieved a lot. And I'd love to see them in the semis. It would mean so much more to world cricket. That takes, because it's just, otherwise we see the big 3 dominating everything, the 3 countries with all the money. India, Australia, and yes, England. And it's about time some of that money and resource got shared out on a more equal basis, so that we do have more teams challenging and more teams with the resources to improve their game. I don't know what the resources are like in Afghanistan now. I can only imagine that when Rashid Khan speaks with such passion about what it means for him to play for Afghanistan. I mean, look at all the franchises he plays for. IPL star, Big Bash star, T20 Blast, but yet still playing for Afghanistan is the prize for him. The passion for Afghanistan cricket that he displays. I would love to see Afghanistan win today for the likes of Rashid Khan, who's put everything on the line for his country with the ball and sometimes with the bat as well. And those 4 spinners, him and Nabi, if they can exercise the type of hold they placed on Sri Lanka in the last, I think it was Sri Lanka in the last match, then we could really see a surprise result today, I think.
Yeah. David, We thank you so much for your time because we know that you are a very busy man, and we do appreciate your time. But just before I let you go, what do you think, or who do you think is walking out of this match victorious today?
Well, yeah, I've actually put some of my meager savings on to Afghanistan winning this game today. Can I ask you, how you're all in Delhi at the moment? Has the game took place yesterday? We know about the pollution. Have you been able to start, Tasnin? Have you been able to start your fitness work now, running outside, or are you still restricted to being indoors?
Yeah, so it's been a bit challenging to be honest with you. I did start by having morning runs out in the park. Sorry, because obviously our day is pretty jam packed. So yeah, in the past couple of 3 or 4 days since it's really dropped down, it's been a lot harder to take a full breath out, especially when you're running and sprinting around. So I've just stuck to taking it on in the gym. Doesn't help much that I'm asthmatic as well.
That's really difficult. And do you think the game yesterday was in any way impacted by those air conditions?
I wouldn't be sure to be honest with you. You know, both teams did their best out there yesterday. You wouldn't be able to tell, to be honest with you. You had guys still pushing out there, running twos and threes, like it wasn't entirely affecting them. To be honest with you, I think it's a lot less dense out in the city as it is out on the outskirts where we probably stay, because we stay more of the suburb area than did in city central. So I think it's not as bad in the city center as it is out on the outskirts as well.
Well, fortunately, yeah, it's not. I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope you can resume your full fitness schedule. Because I think, was it you or Thandika was saying earlier that you experienced the stadium yesterday, and you really want to play for as long as possible, maybe 10 years or more. Who was it who said that?
Yeah, definitely. It was a great atmosphere in the stadium last night. I was with both these ladies, and we had a great time yesterday. It's good to see. I think Indian fans are very passionate about the game, and
Yeah.
any little thing that happens, the crowd has a reaction to it. So it was great to
Well,
be
I
in
mean,
that
what
atmosphere. And if you feel that way, sitting in the stands, what more standing in the center?
And when you see that, when you've experienced the atmosphere of being at one of those World Cup matches for real in the stadium, what would you say? Do you understand those critics who think that 50 over cricket is dying?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I'm with you on this one, David. 50 over cricket brings everything out there for me. It shows it's one of the most prominent games for me. I'm personally, don't get me shot on this one, but I'm not one of the biggest test playing fans. I wouldn't see myself playing a test match. I've been involved in a couple of 2-day games with the national women, and it's strenuous. I tend to find that it's long and monotonous, and the only way I actually enjoy the game is standing under the pot and standing at leg slip or somewhere where my life just may be at risk, keep my heart beating. But it's not for me test cricket, to be honest with you. But I feel like 50 over cricket is that game where you have teams like the likes of Afghanistan right now. We know what they've done to put the work in to be able to play 50 over cricket because they are T20 specialists. And you have an approach where they're telling you that they're breaking it down into two T20 games and one 10 over match. And this shows you the diversity that you have to build, the character that has to come out of a team as well to be able to play this format. So for me, this being in the stadium yesterday, there's points in time in the game. You have the likes of Rohit that can come out and play a T10 ahead of before playing the T20 overs broken up into two.
Yeah.
You feel like Rohit starts by playing a T10 first. If he's still around, he'll settle into T20 play, maybe 30 over cricket and another 10 over cricket set at the end of the day. But I think it's brilliant for me. I don't believe that 50 over cricket is dead. If anything, this World Cup has shown us that by teams playing more T20, two things happen. Either you become the England of the world and you fail to sit in the position of competing with teams that have become 50 over specialists or just cricket specialists in the least, or you become the likes of South Africa, you become the likes of India that are out there scoring 400s. They're telling you, look, we've got 300 balls. Gone is the traditional thinking that a team needs to go at 6 and over to maintain 300, possibly add maybe 20 to 30 extras in a match, and you've got a pass score of 320. You have teams telling you simply outright that the last 10 overs are set to go at 10 and over. That's just the total. That's 100 runs from the last 10, possibly another 80 from the start. You want 180, and whatever build up they have between 150 to 180 runs in the middle period overs, you're well over 320 into 350 before you even consider the extras. So I believe for me, 50 over cricket is the ultimate ahead of T20 because you lose wickets early, you need to learn to rebuild. A T20 match, you lose wickets early, you just need to come in and keep teeing off. 50 over cricket shows you quality of batsmen. You have the likes of batsmen that can come in, like right now in this game for me for Afghanistan. I did mention it on News X this morning that Dronacharya has been brilliant for me, Before I even point at the likes of Ramanullah Gavaz or Ibrahim Zadran, Ramashah for me is a very unsung hero for Afghanistan right now in the sense that he's been coming at 3 or 4. He comes to not only stabilize, rebuild, but he shows that he has the ability to go at it as well and accelerate. T20 cricket does not give you that opportunity. T20 cricket means you come in, you've got 3 balls to settle, and you must tee off. There's no show of grit. There's no show of what your tenacity is as a player as well in a whole.
I have to. I mean, I agree with most of that. I mean, I really do agree with nearly all of what you said because there's no doubt that T20 cricket has helped improve attacking batting and has led to these scores. I mean, the early scores in 50 over matches, when you look through the history books, they were like 250 was a winning score. And now you can't relax until you get to 400. So I thought the success of the South Africa T20, the CA T20 last year was really significant because you could see that tournament got it absolutely right in the marketing of it and in the actual way it was carried out. You could see that there was a real new audience coming in and the role for T20 in getting new people in. But I've got to come back to you, Tasnim, about what you said about Test cricket, because I'm one of the founders of the Test Match Cricket Appreciation Society, newly formed just now. In that, to me, yes, you do get passages of play in a 4 or 5 day match that are monotonous. And if you're fiddling at leg slip for 4 or 5 days, I would get pretty bored too. But the thing is, there's great moments of intensity. To me, when Shami and Bumrah are bowling for India in this tournament, it feels like Test cricket because in Test cricket, unlike T20, you're trying to get the batters out, not just bowling like wide Yorkers to try and restrict them. And at the heart of cricket, it is batters v bowlers, and you want one team to be getting wickets. And because of the shorter 20 overs and still having 11 batters, there's never that pressure on the new bat coming in to rebuild an innings. They can be happy with a quick 20 or 30. In fact, when you watch cricket on the IPL, it puts up on the TV, the graphic comes up showing how many 30s a batter has scored in their career. I mean, is that anything to look back on when you've got your grandchildren on your knee? What did you do? Well, I got 5 30s in the IPL. I mean, surely it's the international, runs that count and centuries. And you learn to bat long in Test cricket. And we're seeing the likes of Virat Kohli. Yes, I'm sorry I'm mentioning him again. Doing so well because of his experience in the Test match format. But 50 over is a great halfway house. We can agree to meet on this one because it doesn't have the potential monotony of a 4 or 5 day match. Although I didn't see too much monotony this summer in the Ashes. There was something going on all the time because of the way that England played, and they played a attacking cricket. That's really come unstuck for them in this tournament because they've gone in with a T20 mindset that a quick 20 or 30 is going to win. No, it isn't. If you're chasing 350, if you're a top order batter, you have to do more than score 20 or 30. I mean, that's not going to get you anywhere near the target. You have to be prepared to do what Kohli and Ia did for India earlier this week and dig in those middle overs against, who was it against now? They wouldn't surrender their wickets. So they had that 3rd wicket partnership, which turned out to be, it was against Sri Lanka? When they just rolled over Sri Lanka really quickly in response and suddenly, no, it was against South Africa. I beg your pardon. When these games happen so quickly, one has to remind oneself what one's just seen. But no, I think the 50 over format, I can't believe that this is coming from administrators, this pressure. Even the ICC announced a review of the format of this tournament at the start. They said, oh, immediately after it's finished, we're going to be reviewing it because the TV audiences are slightly down. I bet they're not down now in India. I bet every Indian cricket fan is glued to this tournament. And we're probably going to see when India win it, which they probably will, because home teams have been winning in the last 3 World Cups. So they are the favourites to win. But you'll see that this question will be off the table. Now that India are doing so well in the 50 over, we won't be seeing any more reviews. I think the format is guaranteed. But what ICC need to do is make the bilateral 50 overs tournaments more relevant. And they seem to be going the other way. I thought there was a league, an ODI league table. And I'm not even sure what the status of that is now. So they've got to stop. The administrators have got to look at the changing nature of the game of cricket and organise it properly so that everyone is benefiting. And, at the end of the day, international cricket is where you make your name. I don't care how many franchises you play for. Let's go back to Rashid Khan. He's played for about 25 different franchises when I was looking at his stats. But what's he going to remember at the end will be whether he's contributed to Afghan victories in a tournament like the World Cup. It really does mean something. And I'd love to see Rashid Khan winning the game today for Afghanistan. And yeah, your points about Shah being the best batsman, what Thandika said, I think that you've also got to look at the wicketkeeper who, given the opportunity to bat first, the man whose name begins with Z, I can never remember his name, forgive me. Yes, he, given the opportunity to bat first, it's good for him because he's a great player. And I think he will do well today as well. If he's still there now, I think he'll bat. Is he still there now? I think so.
He hasn't even come in yet. Currently at the crease right now, you have Ramanullah Gabaz and Ibrahim Zajan. Well, they've lost one wicket actually.
That's the set I was
Gabaz has just gone out for 21 off 25. Ibrahim Zajan now at the crease with Rahmat Shah. Adil Akil expected to come in batting at number 6 today.
Yeah,
yes, he's coming in at number 6 today.
Okay, Zadran was the one I was talking about because Ibrahim Zadran, who's 23 not out, so he's the not out batsman at the moment. He does much better when Afghanistan bat first, because isn't he the keeper as well? I think he's the wicket keeper. And
yes, he's a standing wicket keeper as well.
Yeah, and he's done. And I tell you, he's one of the best wicket keepers in this competition. You've seen some of the work he's done behind the stumps, and you look at the difference with your own Quentin de Kock. Oh, sorry, South Africa's Quentin de Kock. When he scores runs, he scores them batting first. When he's been crouching down doing squats for 3 hours, which is effectively what a wicketkeeper does. Imagine doing a squat for 3 hours. 3 hours of squats.
Definitely. It does take a toll on the body as well.
Then try and go out and bat and score a century. So wicket keepers are much better off batting first. And I think we'll see the best of Ibrahim Zadran today. I've backed him to score 50 runs, and he may get a ton. And again, I'm sorry to Indian viewers, you can't have a bet. I know it's not legal in India, but here in the UK, we like to have a little bet on the cricket just to give it a bit more spice. And so we like to put our money where our mouths are. And so my money today on Afghanistan and Ibrahim Zadran to be top scorer. But I agree that the man who's just come in now, Rahmat Shah, at number 3, is a formidable player too. And when you look at this top order for Afghanistan, Australia have got a lot of work to do today. You've got Rashid coming in as low as 8, and he can hit it, and so can Nabi too. They can give vital acceleration. So the more you look at these two teams, actually, the more you think, no, those odds aren't right. Afghanistan shouldn't be outsiders for this game. They should be favourites.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, something that not a lot of people have taken into consideration. Australia may be the favourites based on past history stats. Yeah. But looking at how they've been going throughout this tournament, for me, I would like to say that the Afghanistan batsmen have way better averages and way better form right now for me. as you know from this morning, I'm definitely back in Afghanistan. You can go through every game for me that they've played this far in the World Cup, even the games that they've lost. And I want to tell you something. For me, where they really get it going is they are playing percentage cricket. For me, in the sense that each guy has something to contribute to the team. Unlike the likes of Australia, you look at it, if David Warner doesn't score runs, then they automatically become a bit crippled at the top order. Same thing's been happening with bigger teams off the order. It's good for India now, that their middle order finally getting tested. In Shiraz Ear coming in, trying to do something. KL Rahul coming in, trying to do something. But for Afghanistan, for me, from the start of this tournament, they've been consistently knocking out players. Sadran's got 100 under his belt. Ramashar today, if he scores another 50, he'll have 450s under his belt this World Cup alone. Again, there's still Azmatullah Homazi. There's still Ramanullah Gabaz. Ramanullah Gabaz had his name on the score sheet not so long ago for having runs under his belt as well. You still have the likes of Hashmatullah Shahidi as well in their captain, who's been doing well enough for me. I believe it's not always just about scoring the hundreds, but being able to give the other guys in the team the confidence to be able to bat around you and focus on their game centrally and not just on what's happening on both ends of the pitch at any given time.
I absolutely agree with that. I tell you, going back to the game you watched yesterday when you went to see the live match, how did you feel about what it means for the game of cricket, and the World Cup in particular? What impact did it make on you? What were your feelings being at the live game yesterday?
It's been brilliant for me. Everybody went into that game expecting Sri Lanka to run over Bangladesh. Yeah. I personally had backed Sri Lanka at the start of the game, based on the fact of what form they were in, as well as what, the likes of Mushfiq Rahim not being able to come to the show and all, same as Shakib. But then you have Shakib going away and coming back, looking like the break was all he needed just to get away from the chaos of the World Cup, maybe see his family, maybe just get his head out of all the drama and come back with a fresh mind. You have him coming in and playing a part with the ball, as well as coming out and scoring some runs. He had a great partnership of over 100 plus runs, and I believe that's the big partnership. That was the pivotal point for me. He scored a good 70 odd runs, and his strike rate was just over 125. That tells you he came out with the plan. He came out driven, and he had purpose as well, And just to sit in the stadium and watch the way he went about his game, regardless of the fact that they had a deep square out and a cow corner out, he was timing it sweetly enough to hit the gap between the two people still. Regardless of the fact that there was a mid-wicket just in front of him, he had two options. I'm hitting the man or I'm hitting the ball. If the ball hits the man, so be it. Let him move back. Let him get out of my way. He came out with a positive intent for me yesterday. And if it wasn't for him stamping down that authority, Bangladesh may have not won that game yesterday.
I mean, Tasmin, you're like Zimbabwe's national player coach, so you must know the impact a good coach can have on a team, and keeping it simple, I think, is one of the lessons to be learned. But looking at that Sri Lanka team yesterday, they went into that match knowing that all the directors been fired, every single one of them, apart from the coach. So how would you feel as the national player coach if you woke up one morning of a big game and found that all your bosses, the people that had appointed you, have all disappeared? Would it make you feel more confident or less confident going into a match?
Yeah, I haven't entirely coached on the national level personally yet, but I can tell you based on club experiences and possibly coaching in high schools, private high schools back home. I think if I woke up in the morning of a big tournament, say a national tournament, a high school tournament, and to find out that my sports director is being fired, automatically I question whether I'm safe or not based on the new guy coming in. It's not easy, and I believe coaches are professional enough. I'd love to reach that level myself, whereby they're able to compartmentalize things, put it aside, and tell themselves, look, I've got a big game on my hands today, and maybe, just maybe, I'm making my own conclusions or assumptions here. I'm trying to put myself in the position, but just maybe he may have lost key moments in the game set to distraction. But then again, he's only the guy that gives his players the advice. It's down to them what they do with it at the end of the day.
Well, that is true. I mean, spare a thought for the Englishman, Chris Silverwood, national coach of Sri Lanka. He didn't have a great time when he was coach of England. So that's why he was replaced by this fellow in the ODIs, Matthew Mott. But yeah, it must be tough for him as the coach of Sri Lanka to wake up to read the news that all the people that have appointed you, the guys that have basically agreed your contract, have all gone. And so who's he going to be dealing with now? And maybe they will have their own ideas of who they want to bring in as coach. If I was Chris Silverwood, I would be looking at the situations vacant column, or the websites with jobs on it in cricket, because I think he's going to need a new one pretty soon. Because let's face it, if you're coach at whatever level and you keep losing or you don't perform, then you expect to go. I said to the lady last time we were talking that in football, in soccer, if a team loses 5 or 6 games in a row, sometimes it doesn't even take that long. The coach is gone. They're out.
Look at Manchester United. They switched coaches about 4 times in the space of 5 weeks of the Premier League. David Moyes in and out. They had everybody coming and going. I think they had a long list of applications just sitting on the desk. Absolutely.
I'll give you another prediction, and it's a soccer one. Manchester United got the worst coach in the Premiership now, and he is really messing everything up. He's lost, that phrase, to lose the dressing room. When you lose the dressing room, it means that, well, my reading of that is that players don't respect you. They don't really listen to what you say. So you can make a speech and find that no one's listening, or that people are chipping in with their own remarks. But can you give us any insights in what that means when you lose the dressing room? What does that actually mean? Because I hear that Chris Silverwood has lost the dressing room as well.
I think what more or less could mean for you as a coach as well is you're out there telling teams that, look, I think you guys need to, I'll break it down for you this way. I think you guys need to come into the game in the first 10 overs, look to probably stick around and score a couple of runs, and maybe, just play it safe, hold on to your wicket till the middle period of the overs. When the field is spread out and you can push hard, run out to sweepers, take those threes, take those twos, but you have guys agreeing with you, smiling to your face, saying, yeah, definitely, coach, we got this. Definitely, we hear you. Then they go in and they play a Rohit Sharma innings for you. And they're out there smashing 6s and 4s or trying to and getting out in the first 10 overs. But nobody's going to entirely pinpoint it and say, look, the coach did this. Not in cricket. I'm 100% with you. People are going to come out and say, what was going on in the mind of the players? We spoke about it last week. We said what was going on in the mind of Netherlands. They looked like they were in a race to go somewhere, and they really didn't get to the finish line as well. But we can't entirely chalk it down to the players. What was the team plan? That's the thing about being on the outside and not being a player in the dressing room. You don't actually know what was discussed and what was agreed upon versus what guys went out there and actually did.
I mean, there's some jokes making the rounds in England today about motivation. And someone said to me in response to a really boring speech, they said it was about as boring as a Joss Butler motivational speech. And, there are certain players, and Joss Butler is one of them, who was a really good player, really good batter and vice captain. But when you ask him to actually lead the team, he falls short because he hasn't got the ability to motivate. And I think, different players respond to different things, but you can pick out these guys when they become captain or they become coach, and they don't have that ability to motivate guys. What happens is the team falls down and their own individual performance falls down as well. Joss Butler can't buy a run. He's one of the best players in franchise cricket, and he certainly shone in the last World Cup. Now he can't buy a run. If they were on sale, he wouldn't be able to buy one. And that's because the pressures of captaincy don't suit him. And thank you very much, Joss, for your 3 months service. We're now going to replace you. I think that's what has to happen. And I'm afraid with Chris Silverwood, the same thing too. Afghanistan will have a different problem after their showing today in this tournament. They'll have the problem, and they're 58 for 1 now. They'll have the problem of how do we keep Jonathan Trott, because every team will want Jonathan Trott because he keeps it simple. We saw in the last Afghan match their chart. They were holding it up. Really simple chart with how many runs they need to score at the end of each 10 overs. Keep it simple. so the players know what to do. When you confuse them with loads of different things, and so Jonathan Trott has put out the message: this is a 50-over tournament, not 20. You need to bat long, and don't panic if you haven't scored. I mean, in the 10 overs today, I think they're around 47. Now you could say, "Oh, they've started too slowly," but 13 overs in, they're only 1 wicket down for 60. So they've got wickets in hand. And the 2 guys that we've picked out, Ibrahim Zadran, the keeper, on 32, and Ramat Shah, the person that you've been bigging up quite rightly because he's been really good in this tournament, they're still at the crease. So you've got, loads of overs to go, a strong batting lineup. I mean, it's an ideal start for them because Mitchell Stark has bowled 3 overs and not taken a wicket. And Josh Hazlewood has taken the wicket. But they've seen off the threat of the first 10 overs because you don't need to speak to Sri Lanka or England fans to know that you could have carnage in the first 10 overs if you're not careful. And so having guys who can tough it out, get through the first overs. So I'm really looking forward to, watching and listening to the rest of this match now. And we could be seeing historic victory, Afghanistan over Australia today.
Yeah, something I'm going to just pick up from what you said about Jonathan Trott. For me, as a key thing I've learned, I haven't been coaching for the longest, maybe just say for the past 7 years or so, with a bit of experience in New Zealand in the club setup, as well as in America, And something I've learned a lot of the times is teams are not the same. No team plays alike to the other team. And as you come in as a coach, it's not your job to change them. It's your job to take what they're good at and do it and break it down for them and make them better at it. Find the point of weakness, improve on the weakness, but don't focus on the weakness. Focus on what they're good at. Like you said, Afghanistan is a good team. They do play T20 cricket well. And Jonathan Butler's not out here giving them the big picture. Look, we want to bat 50 overs. No, he's saying, look, you're good at playing T20, but I'm going to break it down even smaller for you. Let's go 10 overs at a time. Don't look at the end. Don't look at the finish line. Look at what you have on hand right now. Let's go 10 overs a time. Check where we are in these 10 overs. Break it down. They call it
Absolutely.
These are your KPIs. These are your KPIs. And he's saying to them, our KPIs, we're not going to break them down by 20 overs or by 30 overs or power play 1, power play 2, power play 3. Because not forgetting, in the second power play, that's 30 overs to think about. He's saying at the end of every 10 overs, this is where we want to find ourselves. Are we good the first 10? Are we good the next 20? Are we good the next 30? Give yourselves a tick in the box. So at the end of the day, when we come back to the drawing board, teams do this a lot. It happens in our dressing room as well, whereby you write down your targets, where you want to be at what point in time, in what stage of the game. You give yourself a tick. If you don't get a tick in that area, it's easy to come back the next day, come back to the drawing board and say, look, we missed it between over number 30 to 40. What can we do better? As opposed to looking at the whole 50 overs or breaking it down even into the 3 power plays, you are able to pinpoint where the problem was and how you could possibly go about addressing it.
Absolutely. I mean, if you like, the teams that have performed in this competition, they all have really good coaches. And the ones that have failed, you have to ask, is the right coach in charge? And that's why people are asking these questions of Sri Lanka having been, dumped out of the World Cup, and they're going to be asking these questions about England. And just to put something back on the table about Test cricket, Test cricket has been livened up hugely by this thing called Bazball, which people have been using, they've been using to describe how England are playing Test matches now. They're going out and scoring much more quickly because fielders at leg slip are finding it too boring. So they're scoring a lot more quickly. And England, okay, they didn't win the Ashes, but they won a lot more series under Ben Stokes as captain and Baz McCullum from New Zealand, hence Bazball. Those two have done brilliantly for the Test team. But this ODI team is under different management. It's Joss Butler and a fella called Matthew Mott, whose only claim to fame in international cricket was keeping Australia at the top of the women's game. Now, we know Australia have got all the resources in the women's cricket. They've been playing it for years.
Yeah.
and they're much better than everyone else. So really, how difficult an assignment is that? And should he have been picked as the ODI coach, not knowing any of the players? As you said, you need to know the individuals and how they respond. This applies to the captain, doesn't it? Because captain and coach is a combination. So what we're really talking about is the combo. And the Rahul Dravid Sharma combo seems to be working well enough. You can't fault that. And Rahul Dravid seems to know and keep it simple for players. Jonathan Trott has kept it really simple for the Afghanistans. He's not confusing them. Lots of negative thoughts. It's all about the targets. Don't panic, whatever. Whereas you just see with England chopping and changing all the time, it's really not worked at all. And I think also give credit to South Africa under is it Simons and Bavuma. They seem to have like the right combination, however disappointing Bavuma's been on the field. Off the field, obviously things are going well, and you can't really fault the leadership there, although the wheels did come unstuck against India, didn't they? No, I'm increasingly confident now that we are going to see an upset today. It's all, Australia, a team that couldn't be bothered to tour Afghanistan last year. They're having to play them now. If they were actually consistent about their moral position, they'd have stood down and given the 2 points and said, no, we're not playing Afghanistan because they don't have a women's team. They would have been laughed at for that ridiculous excuse, because people know the reality in Afghanistan is that women are being denied basic human rights like education. So how are they supposed to organise a cricket team, for God's sake, to play in?
Get them wearing a couple of pairs of trousers as well. Don't forget that part.
The which?
I said, as well as, you're talking about just the basic human rights. The fact that the women will be wearing trousers, faces uncovered. Not sure they can play with the whole Ajia covering their faces on the field as well, in the temperatures of 37 degrees, as what Mumbai is putting out for you there today. So I'm not entirely sure on that one of Australia where the pattern of thinking was for them as well. You can't fault one team over the probability of what's going on in their country, something they themselves have probably nothing to control over. I do remember when it happened, the Afghanistan men tried to make a stand as well for their women to be able to play cricket, but there's not much they can personally do against the government, against the Taliban in the league.
What are they supposed to do? It's a pathetic gesture. It was an empty gesture from Australia. And, the Paul, the top podcaster, he was on NewsX earlier this morning. And, he was coming out with the same thing. Australia have taken a moral position. Yeah, that's a load of humbug, isn't it? What sort of moral position is it? Where it's an excuse for not wanting to go through the challenges, and maybe the security challenges of touring in unfamiliar conditions, because Australia like to play at home. Well, they're not playing at home today. They're playing at Wankhede Stadium. Most India fans will be supporting Afghanistan today, I believe. And so it'll be like a away match for Australia. Let's see how they bat in these conditions. Let's see what they're like chasing a big score in these conditions. They're not playing at the MCG. They're playing here at Wankhede Stadium, and I don't think they're going to have it all their own way by any means.
So I'm just going to hand over to the two ladies sitting in here with me. I'm going to bring them into the conversation, because Lord knows me and you can have a cricket chat all day. I'm going to bring you back into the show. Do you guys have anything else you have for me and David?
Can't you ask the big boss Cash, just to give us our own show all through the day? I'm
going to definitely work on that before I head home. Maybe we'll just have to run one day's podcast, just me and you, just talking cricket, David.
I would love that. Let's put the idea to the big boss, because it's cheap programming for him, because we're both already being paid. He hasn't got to get expensive names, and also we could talk all day and give you occasional updates on the cricket when something happens. When if Afghanistan were to lose a wicket, but I don't think they will lose. What is the score?
Oh no, but actually they're going quite strong right now. It's been 15 overs gone, and Afghanistan's sitting on 73 for 1. So I think they're doing great. Ibrahim Zardan, like you said, you put your money on him to be a top scorer today. He's currently on 43 runs off just 52 balls. The part I love about it, he's hit 5 fours. That's only 20 runs. That means he's out there grinding. He's pushing the ones and twos. I checked his wagon wheel earlier in the first 10 overs. He had run 2 threes already in the
I'm really
first 10
pleased to
overs.
hear.
So this tells me that he's a player that fits as well.
I'm really pleased to hear about the runs being scored. I backed him to be the top scoring batsman today, and that means we can take our dog to the vet if that bet comes in, because that was a decent bet. And our dog Parker has an ear infection and needs to go to the vet today. And that hopefully Afghanistan will give us the money to do that. And I apologize again to Indian fans who can't bet on the cricket. Yeah, because we know that betting on cricket is not allowed in India. But I'm here in London where betting is allowed on cricket. I believe it's allowed in most places around the world. Is it allowed in South Africa and Zimbabwe?
I haven't actually tested my hand, I'm not entirely sure about that.
I'm not too sure as well.
Yeah, but I've had about 11 successful predictions this World Cup, and I've been running a joke in our house. We all happen to live together in an apartment, and I've been running a joke with these girls to say that I'm really considering taking betting up, because you can't have 11 correct predictions and nobody's paying.
And no money to show for it.
You get a double whammy. You get the thrill of seeing your team win, and you also get the thrill actually it's triple whammy. The thrill of seeing your team win, the thrill of being proved right, and the thrill of spending the money that you win. And I say apologies to Indian viewers. I know it's not legal.
Definitely. I can just imagine you are living your life, David Bruce.
Maybe one day it will be. I've got to exit to take my dog to the vet now, because I'm that confident that we'll be able to pay the fees.
Thanks a lot, David. We appreciate having you on the show. And just maybe when we come back later in the evening to have probably a mid-match, almost post-match type of scenario, we can catch you again and have you online with us again.
Absolutely. I'll try and appear with Parker, my dog. Hopefully he'll be here to join me for that session.
Oh, we'd love to say hi. Hope the ear infection
you would like to say hi.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I am a dog person. I do have 6 of my own at home as well. So I understand the concern.
Thanks very much, guys. See you.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to hand back over to Thandi and the lady. I'm not sure if anyone has anything else to say. I apologize, me and David. We're good cricket talkers. We're always getting lectured even in the morning to cut our conversations short. That's just cricket people for you. At the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, we've already spoken about most of the things, and of course, you and David continued with that as well. But I just want to find out from you your views about what happened yesterday with obviously Angelo yesterday. I mean, I've been thinking that I don't think we have been really paying attention to, if a player is being dismissed, then you've got about 2 minutes to get in position. I feel like there may have been situations where the batsmen who were coming in really surpassed the 2-minute grace period. But because maybe the opposition team were not really aware of the rule, but after yesterday, surely everybody will not want to, fall on the wrong side of that rule.
So one thing I'll let you know is the rule is that it is in the ICC law book. I think it should be 14.41 or so.
Yeah.
It's been there for time and time again. Hence the reason why the next batsman coming in doesn't sit upstairs in the changing room, but rather downstairs on the boundary rope with guys that are prepared. Again, hence the reason why you told the batting order ahead of time. So if number 3's gone in and you're batting in at number 5, it's a great time to pad up. I personally am that batsman that I prefer to stick my helmet on while I'm still outside the field before I go on the field and have that time, have that view of watching the game through the visor of my helmet, But everybody is different. Everybody does things differently. But it's your responsibility as a player to make sure that your equipment is fine. Yes, fair and fine in the Angelo Matthews incident, his helmet may have broken when he got to the crease. But I was listening to a review this morning by the 4th umpire from last night on the incident, and he did mention that it's on you as a batsman. It's your responsibility to get to the crease and give yourself that 15 seconds allowance or 20-second allowance to be able to fix your gloves, tie your laces, do whatever you need to do. Mark center, take your guard if that's what you're doing, and be ready to face the next ball coming. So would I say Matthews did it intentionally? Maybe not. But then again, it's in every right for Bangladesh to appeal on the setting of timing.
Yeah.
And it's down to the umpires, because the time is actually kept by the 4th umpire that's sitting outside. As well as you'll find a lot of wicket keepers and captains wear a watch,
watch,
on
yeah,
field.
yeah.
So they will be watching for small things like that. You find maybe some teams don't really find it entirely relevant. Maybe a guy gets to the crease and he's taken guard and he's ready and it's 2 minutes, 5 seconds past by.
Yeah.
But one thing you must understand is a lot was on the line yesterday for both these teams. Bangladesh was looking for every avenue and every corner to be on the winning side of this game. Is it still within the spirit of cricket? Well, personally for me, I feel it might have been a bit of a harsh decision, but some of these decisions do prompt better behavior from teams.
Exactly.
So maybe we'll see an improvement in this department throughout the rest of the World Cup.
And I mean, of course, rules are rules. Just like a lot of people have been saying on the social yesterday that this was way out of cricket spirit, but I would like to disagree, because if something is written in black and white and stating very clearly that this is the rule, then it should be followed. And I would like to believe that after what happened yesterday, the umpires, or even at the stadiums, they should be roundabout like the big screen with the timer. Every time somebody goes out or is dismissed, then the next batsman can see the timer on the stadium. And of course, as a cricket player, I would like to believe that you can agree with that.
Yeah, I think they've done. That's the great thing about the game, and it's constantly changing, and the use of technology being inducted into the game as well. We've seen that now on DRS counters when you're trying to decide whether you want to take a review or not. There is a DRS timer that goes over.
Yeah.
So maybe after this World Cup, we will see that at stadiums there is a clock timer on how long a batsman has to come in and out. But it's nothing you can fault anybody for at this point in time, because it's never been an issue raised before. So I don't believe there's anyone at fault in this instance. Like you said, it is in black and white. It is written. So people that know it, know it. Everyone that doesn't know it, or they know it and they choose to ignore it, that's on them as well.
And of course, I'll come back to Tandi just now. With what happened yesterday, obviously, on the field of play, what do you think may have been the talks of the teams that were watching what happened yesterday?
Like we said, maybe everybody's going to take a bit of caution now as the games go on, taking it a bit more seriously, because I don't think teams will be outright saying, look, he's gone now, we're waiting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and start counting them down. But it's definitely something for teams to watch out for, because it's a moment that's happened, it's something that's occurred. Yeah. So it's definitely something that teams will probably want to watch out for now.
Over to you.
And I was listening to your conversation, you and David, right now, talking about the way Afghanistan has been performing so well so far, being able to take out England as well and other big teams. So I was just thinking now about their spin attack. How will Australia deal with that pressure?
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. We've seen Afghanistan being the team doing the crazy business of setting a team up with 4 spin bowlers. They've done it again today, Noor Ahmed comes off the bench. He's got a good 3 for 21 under his belt as well. Yeah. And they'll be wanting to upset the Australians. Josh Ingles in his past 2 games has been dismissed by spin. The likes of Steve Smith, who obviously is not playing today, has also been struggling to play against spin. So I think it's a great ploy of tactic again by the Afghanistan. Not to mention, winning the toss and actually picking to bat first. I'm all for that decision, It was currently 35 degrees Celsius out in Mumbai when the game started. Expected to reach 37, 38, somewhere around there. Wow. So in their minds, they're probably thinking, are we going to bake these guys out here? We're going to bat 50 overs and let them cook. You know what I mean? And when they're done cooking, we're going to come at them with everything we got. Not one of the biggest turning pitches in terms of spin as well. The Waikiki Stadium. But one thing you must understand is they have the quality spin bowlers that are able to not just turn the ball, but they have good pace variation. When you get to conditions, I personally am a spinner, and you're not getting much out of the surface. You need to have a plan of what you can still do to make life difficult. You can change the height, the flight of the ball that you're letting it out. You can change the speed, go flatter, go slower. There's a lot of things in play. And this is any given surface. And this is something I believe the Afghanistans are able to do really, really well. We've seen a pitch where Rashid Khan bowled on it early in the morning. Didn't get much purchase out of it. Then you have Adil Rashid coming in later in the afternoon, the dew factor setting in, and the dew factor giving him a bit of a slow pitch and grip and turn situation. So it's basically going to depend as well. If the dew factor comes into play today in Mumbai, maybe there'll be a lot more on offer for the spinners. It'll be interesting to see when Adam Zampa comes out and he has the ball just now, what exactly the ball is actually doing. That will give the likes of Rashid Khan, Mujib Rahman, Mohammad Nabi, and all the other guys sitting on the bench an idea of what's to go out there. On the Rashid Khan front, a lot of people are saying he hasn't had the greatest World Cup. because he's not exactly striking.
Yeah.
But we can't fail and can't fault him in the fact that he's the guy that drives up the runs in the first place. He's your first change spin bowler that's coming out there when everybody's been bashed, slowing down the run rate. He may not be taking wickets, but the fact that he's slowing them down, he's creating the pressure for the likes of Mohammad Nabi to come in and take a wicket, for the likes of Mujib to come in and actually be effective. So I believe, he's played his role. Can he do more? 110%, because he is a quality spinner. He is the frontline class for Afghanistan as well.
Definitely. And I was also thinking there was a time off record when you're talking about we shouldn't just look at the runs scored, and also we should just look at the strike rate. So what would you take or say about the way Afghanistan has been performing, based on, as much as they might not have the top centuries on the rankings out there, but the way they're playing right now compared to what the stats are favoring Australia right now, having the best batsmen and all-rounders, really.
Yeah, you see, Afghanistan may not even have any player in the top 10 of the batting rankings right now.
Yeah.
But it says nothing for teams that have players in the top 10 and they don't even find themselves in the top 8 position or top 6 in the least, contesting for a spot in the semi-final. I mentioned to David earlier, that this is a percentage team. For me, I've been mentioning time and time again, ODI cricket and T20 cricket, the baseline draw for me between batsmen is the creation of partnerships.
Yeah.
You got to have at least 100-run partnership. If you don't have a 100-run partnership, ideally you want to find yourself with at least 5 50-run partnerships or plus. Because at the end of the day, this is where Afghanistan gets it right for me. They're able to absorb pressure, come back out, rebuild, and create a partnership. They may not have the big hitters of David Warner at the top of the order, but Ibrahim Zaljan has shown he has that ability. Azmatullah Omazi has shown he has the ability to come out and hit the ball. We haven't really spoken much about Al-Akil as well, the wicketkeeper. Ikram Al-Akil, he's able to hit the ball hard. Rashid Khan is down all the way at number 8, and he's able to hit the ball hard. So this means, regardless of whether you come and you take wickets against them, you still need to chip away at the other people that nobody's talking about. And to address your issue of the strike rate, I did mention it to you to say, that yes, they come in, they may not be averaging in the strike rates of 120 odd as the likes of Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Quinton de Kock, but they are those guys that are averaging anywhere around 80, anywhere around 90s, and this tells you that they come out there and they may not be hitting 6s and 4s, but they're able to go and run a ball. The moment your runs tell you the amount of balls, your strike rate becomes 100. The moment you drop just slightly below, say you're sitting on 50 runs off about 55 balls, the numbers now say that you are going there at less than 100%. But the numbers are still there. You still have scored a 50. What the difference is between a 50 and what David mentioned is 30s. We out here counting 30s today because of the principle of T20 cricket that you have to smash the ball. But this is a 50-over tournament. This is not a T20 tournament. This is a tournament of character as well at the end of the day. Let's see the grit. Let's see you dig deep and take things longer.
Wow, this is definitely an eye-opening right there. And also, I was just thinking as well, I do a lot of thinking, right, when you're saying, is that we say the middle order is the anchors of the team for both sides. So which side would we say they've got stronger, or let's say players where they can rely on so much to just hold the teams from the both sides? Is it either from Australia or Afghanistan, like who can actually face the spinners better than the other?
Yeah, obviously, I think Australia is going to have a hard time. It's 4 spinners. That's 40 overs of spin waiting for you. It's not exactly going to come at just your middle order. It's going to come even from your number 3, number 4 batsmen will actually find themselves facing spin. Their middle order for me for Australia hasn't really been in the greatest form. In the likes of the fact that Marius Labuschagne been their anchor. If Labuschagne gone, Josh Ingles is struggling against spin as well. We haven't seen much coming out of Mark Stoner's Glenn Maxwell. Glenn Maxwell, he's a big hitter. That's his natural game. But if he wants to hit a spin bowler hard, he needs to time it, or he needs to get to it as well and create the arc for himself to be able to hit with him. You come and you look at obviously the Afghanistan side of things. They still have Mohammad Nabi in there. They have Azmatullah Omazi. They have Rahmatullah Shahidi. And those are the still guys that are still able to, I believe, even if they can't get the ball away, even if they can't hit the 6s and 4s, they're more than willing to run it out. In terms of form, I'd say, Afghanistan's got a way more better in form middle order than Australia right now. Australia has the openers in the likes of David Warner and Mishmash. Not to mention Travis Head on his ODI World Cup debut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He came out and he hit 100+ runs.
Yeah.
He's a big hitter. That's his job. If Afghanistan, for whatever reason today, managed to get either Head, preferably Warner, out early, you know, I believe they might cause some genuine problems today.
Oh, definitely. I'll just hand back over to you, Naledi.
Okay, cool. Now, as we wrap it up, you know how we do it on the show and how we just like to end things. Chocolate time, all right? So, of course, predictions for this one.
I'm definitely with Afghanistan. You know, I've been sitting in the court from the time this tournament started, and I don't think I'll be leaving them just yet.
And for you?
I have been so done by Taz and Dev with the good stuff, but I'll just say based on stats. I'll always say stats as much as they are wrong based on what happened yesterday. So I'll just put my head on the line and be like, Aussie.
I think I'm also going with Australia, not because of what the stats says, but I think Australia do stand a better chance of winning this one. And obviously, they want complete dominance over Afghanistan and just make it 3
This
wins
excites
in the
me.
World Cup.
This excites me. So does that mean I
two
get 2
against
chocolates?
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And then if
I
it's the
can't
other way
wait.
around, you've got to give 2 chocolates to us.
That's fine. I look forward to tomorrow's show.
Yeah.
I would like a live presentation on air.
Oh, you have to take it there,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
And that is how we're wrapping today's watch along. We'll be back, of course, to account for all the predictions that we've made right now on air.